Welcome back into Morning Scone. LSU baseball starts a big three-game series at Texas A&M tonight, and the Pels get a massive win and a little bit of help. Glad to have you aboard with us here as always. Like, share, comment, thumbs up, thumbs down, all those sorts of things help. And please subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. And as always, feedback and comments are very, very much welcomed and encouraged. LSU baseball hits the road for a three-game series against Texas A&M starting tonight. So the odd thing is that in this series, since A&M's been in the league, the two teams have played 15 times. 8 of the 15 games have been decided by one run. So this has been, for whatever reason, a really, really competitive series. And I know the reason. It's because both teams have been really, really good. LSU's won 14 of the last 22 overall against A&M, but since A&M's been in the league, they've been just it's been such a competitive series. So I would expect the same thing again this weekend. And look, I love the Thursday, Friday, Saturday series in part as a radio host because it gives us Thursday and Friday to talk about previewing games and actually to dissect the game on Friday. So plus I love that the SEC is making this a primetime feature on Thursday night and Friday night TV windows to give people something to watch and expose more people to college baseball as opposed to, say, Sunday afternoons when generally people aren't going to be locked in. So I do love it. The thing to keep in mind about this series for LSU is, obviously both teams, but A&M, they're 3-6 in the league, and this is a big time prove it weekend for A&M. Out the chute, A&M has had a really tough conference schedule, and it looked like last weekend at Georgia was going to be their opportunity to kind of get a weekend back, to go steal a weekend. And they went on the road and they lost. A&M went on the road and they lost the series to Georgia. And so it's kind of had a lot of people thinking, like, okay, well, maybe A&M isn't that good this year, and maybe Georgia is a little more legitimate than we all had given them credit for, sort of as a surprise team right now in the conference. And this is where we're going to start finding out everything we need to know about both of these teams. So, like, A&M, for example, opened conference play at Auburn with Casey Mize, and everybody knew they were really good, and Auburn took 2 of 3. Then they were home against Ole Miss, and Ole Miss looks like a bit of a juggernaut, but A&M was able to take 2 of 3. I'm sorry, they lost 2 of 3 at home to Ole Miss, and so they're sitting there at 2-4 in the league, and you're thinking, all right, well, they're going to Georgia. Here's their chance to get right. Well, they lost the first game 11-5, and then they got shut out in game 2, 3-0, and people are going, all right, is Georgia legit and A&M's not good? Well, this is your weekend to find out for A&M, because after LSU, then they've got Bama, which stinks. They're at Tennessee, which isn't very good. Then they're at Mississippi State, which obviously isn't very good either. So after LSU, A&M's got 3 very winnable weekends. The question is A&M going to be digging itself out of a huge hole the next 3 weekends, or will they even up their conference record or get close to it this weekend against LSU and put themselves back in contention for the West over the next 3 weekends? And on the flip side for LSU, you had the rough start, or you had the tough conference series going on the road to Vanderbilt in week 2. Missouri's a pretty good baseball team as well. And then obviously Mississippi State isn't very good, but they managed to steal one at your place last week. So this just feels like a huge series for LSU, because Ole Miss is very good. A&M over the next 3 weeks likely is going to make a charge. So this is your chance to really put some separation if you can win 2 games between you and A&M. So even if whenever you have to play Arkansas, you have to go to Ole Miss, if you stumble in a series, you're still going to maintain a conference lead in those series, assuming LSU wins a series next week against Tennessee, which I'm guessing they will. So this is one of those that you can circle and look back at the end of the season and say whatever happened there, for either way, however it goes, was a major contributor for why their seasons ended up the way they did. I know we're 4 weeks into conference play, but this is one of those ones that feels like a really big series 4 weeks in. A&M has hit the ball okay. They're right in the middle of the SEC offensively, but their pitching, they got the best ERA in the SEC. So A&M has a really good pitching staff. Their collective staff ERA is 2.83. They're holding opponents to a 226 batting average. I'm not trying to bore you with numbers. Just understand A&M offensively, middle of the pack, pitching, they're the best in the league. So Stephen Kolek, who's the junior righty, starts tonight. He actually hasn't been dominant, and he doesn't have great strikeout stuff. He's got 40 strikeouts and 41 innings pitched, but he's 3-3 on the season. So they've had trouble. A&M's offense has had trouble hitting aces at some points during the season. As I mentioned against Georgia last week, Georgia scored 11 against A&M on Friday night or Thursday night as that series began. The really interesting one, I think, by the way, Sunday, or Game 3, is fascinating because you've got Mikhail Hilliard, who leads the SEC in ERA, going against Mitchell Kilkenny for Texas A&M, and he's third in the SEC in ERA. So you've got, in Game 3, the number 1 and number 3 pitchers in the whole conference based on ERA. So, LSU, we've talked about it, how having Hilliard in that Sunday role, the Game 3 role, gives LSU an advantage every single weekend. Well, this is one where you go, man, he may have met his match. So the Game 3, Saturday, may very well be the most compelling and competitive game on the mound of the weekend. So circle that when it's interesting. And then Game 2 with Caleb Gilbert against John Duxakis, I think is how he says his name. He's got a 2.03 ERA, and he's a lefty. So LSU struggled with lefties. So I would really think, if you're LSU and you're trying to figure out your roadmap to win this series, you get off to a good start tonight with Hess, and you manage to win Game 1. Maybe you struggle to hit the lefty in Game 2, and then in Game 3, you hope Hilliard's able to outduel Kilkenny, and you win Games 1 and Game 3. I think LSU's approach all season is going to be split 1 and 2. Find a way to win Game 3 with Mikhail Hilliard, who's 6-0, or who's 6-1 on the season. Of course, the only loss was a 1-0 loss at Vanderbilt. So, just a big weekend for the Tigers going on the road. And LSU hasn't won a series at A&M since being back in the conference, or since A&M's been in the conference. So, going on the road to Bluebell Park, a great environment. They do all the bubbles. That whenever you walk somebody, they count the balls. Ball 4, ball 5, all that stuff. So it's a tough environment when A&M has it going good. So let's see if LSU can get off to a good start tonight. Pels last night, huge win, literally. They won by 28. It was 123-95, and they never trailed in the game. AD was really good. Etwan Moore had 30. There was one scary moment when Ian Clark went down, and when he went down, it looked like he was in so much pain. Went to the locker room. X-rays were negative. Actually, Jen Hale on the broadcast said that it was an ankle injury. And then when he left the arena, I saw on Twitter, when he left the arena, he did not have crutches or a walking boot, which seemed like, okay, that's really good news. If, a lot of times, just out of a precaution, an abundance of caution, they'll put a guy in a walking boot just to stabilize whatever's hurting. So the fact that he's able to leave the arena without any support is really good news, because obviously he's been one of your most productive players off the bench, and you want him healthy for the stretch run. So you got 4 games to go now. You remain 8th in the Western Conference. Pels also got a little bit of help last night, because late, and I actually stayed up and watched this because it was competitive, but the Lakers beat the Spurs in overtime last night. The Lakers, if you go look at my Twitter, go look at my Instagram, I videoed the screen on this right at midnight when the game ended, or when the game went to overtime. The Lakers had the final possession. There's 4 seconds left. They're setting up for a shot. Guy drives to the lane, and the TV cuts to commercial right as he's releasing the finger roll. And apparently, it was right at the stroke of midnight. So I'm sure that the cable provider, whoever it was, had some automated software, something ready to fire off right at midnight. The game went long. So, and then they come back and it's overtime. So it was a funny video. The timing couldn't have been any better or any worse, I guess, depending on your perspective. But good for the Pels to win when they desperately needed it. They got help with the Spurs losing, and now they go out to Phoenix to play the Suns, who are just absolutely dreadful. Maybe the worst team, probably the worst team in the entire Western Conference. So you got, with all the freak out over 4 losses, said, look, yeah, but you got 2 really winnable games, and everybody else has to still play, and there's still this jumble right there in the Western Conference. So if you look at the playoffs, you got the Jazz now in the 4 seed. They're at 33 losses, and then you've got 4 teams all with 34 losses. So really, it's just a matter of who's going to win these games. Just win, and you're in at this point. The only help you could get potentially would be the Jazz losing. But just keep winning. Just keep winning at this point, and you get a great opportunity to do so against Phoenix, who has 20 wins on the entire worst record in the Western Conference, actually worst record in the NBA. So just a good opportunity on Friday. Take this day off, go get healthy. You can City and Clark Friday if you need to, because you aren't going to need them to beat Phoenix. You shouldn't anyway, with everything on the line. Win that game, and then let's see what you can do this weekend against Golden State, who's going to be without Steph, as we know. And you very well could be playing for an important game for seeding at that point. So, busy weekend ahead. Excited about LSU spring football continues. So as we move into the show today with AFR, and then a morning Scone tomorrow. Of course, we'll recap Game 1 of LSU Texas A&M. Very much look forward to talking about that. As always, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Comments, thumbs up, thumbs down on this video if you like it. All of those impressions help us. If you came across this on Facebook, please share it. If you like, comment, all that stuff. If you came across this on Twitter, retweet it. We appreciate all that good stuff. So all those impressions, all those things just make people more aware of it and helps us with ratings and stuff like that on YouTube. So we can get higher priority on the measuring stick. So it's all just in their algorithm. So it's all a building process, but happy to do the show, and I'm happy for the response so far. So appreciate you for being here, and we'll check in with you tomorrow after Game 1 of LSU and Texas A&M.